It was quite a complex reaction, I think. One part of me was very intrigued to think about doing something which I'd been very heavily immersed in so long ago. You know, I mean, at the time of the 1983, 1989, that's when I was really immersed in saxophone. And then the solo piece is 1993. It's a very long time ago. Mm-hmm. And so I was intrigued to know how it would feel, if you can put it like that. I was slightly daunted by the fact that it would be such an enormous amount of sound. And I found myself wondering, if I do this, to make it worthwhile, it needs to be a piece that will get taken up by college bands and so on. And then in that case, how will the tuning be? You know, sure. Those kind of questions. But mostly I was quite excited to do something so different, because a lot of the commissions I've had over the last, I suppose, years, people have tended to come to me. I mean, in a sense, the reason you did, you knew I'd written for saxophone in the past, but people do tend to come back for something that you've done before. You know, another voice piece, another string quartet, whatever it may be. Now, in one way, that's wonderful, because one can never write enough of those pieces. But it's also very exhilarating if something comes out of the blue, which is different. And so that was the case. You know, 11 saxophones out of the blue. That was quite exhilarating. I have something about a forest in the title, because I can't quite explain why. It's just that there's something about the fact, I mean, it's funny because it's not a woodwind instrument, it's a brass instrument, but there's something about the power of the instrument, the fact, you know, like the enormous power of a tree in the forest, and yet all that delicacy that's available as well as the power. So that right from the beginning, someone said, "What are you writing?" I said, "Oh, I'm writing for 11 saxophones. It's like walking about in a forest." Novel. Funnily enough, I think the saxophone I perhaps feel least confident in writing for, although I've written a lot for it, is the soprano, because somehow it never seems to me to have the flexibility of the alto. And inevitably it's sitting up at the top of the ensemble, so it's very important, it's very exposed. It's not unlike when you write for orchestra, you have to be incredibly careful with the piccolo, because it can, you know, you can have a whole orchestral sound fortissimo and you can still hear that piccolo. So although I have written quite a lot, including solo lines for the sopranos in the 11 voice ensemble, I think that's probably the instrument where I find myself thinking, I wonder if that's marked too loud, I wonder if that's too high. I wonder whether it can really, you know, at one point I've got some little microtone scales, and I'm very confident of the altos doing them, but I find myself thinking, well, I hope the sopranos can do them. Although I have tried to make sure that every one of those 11 players has a chance to feel that they really have a worthwhile part to play. There's no point in writing a piece in which someone is counting rests all the time.
Yes.
And there are also solo lines from time to time. Because I love that texture. When you've got this huge sound, like a kind of forest of sounds from 11 people, when you then have one voice coming out of it, it's very telling.
Oh, that sounds.
And I share the solos out, so they don't all go to, you know, alto 1.
Well, my bass player will be very happy. Really important question that I almost forgot. Nicola, how do you pronounce your last name properly?
LeFanu, to rhyme with deafen you.
Okay.
Think about it, you know, 11 saxophones, it'll deafen you, and then you'll remember how to pronounce LeFanu.